The Local Show, sponsored by Victory in Motion, home of knee repair, not knee replacement, on News Radio 570 WSYR, on 106.9 FM, and live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. The Local Show features in-depth conversation with business owners, employees, and influential business leaders throughout Central New York, exploring their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in our growing community. The Local Show is produced locally by Zoe Advertising. Now your hosts, Tom and Steve.
The Local Show is in full swing. Steve Roberts at the helm, making things happen for you, and talking about...
Not at the helm.
You are at the helm.
You look at, you're at the computer, the board, all those fancy gadgets over there.
Yes.
You give me a microphone and I just break this, and I only have one thing in front of me and I'll knock it off the table. So I don't know.
You have done that before.
I know.
I see that you have it taped down now, which is
It is taped
a better idea than,
yes,
than
they get
anything
taped
else.
down, and I'm wearing a helmet.
Jessica DesRosiers is here. Am I saying that? Am I putting the emphasis in the proper place?
You said it actually pretty perfect.
Okay, well that's wonderful. That gets me nowhere. It's Senior Director of Programs and Services at Alzheimer's Association. It's great to have you back.
Thank you for having me back.
Love your smile and your positivity. It's got to be difficult in an area where people have issues. That it's a and wouldn't. I don't want to call it an epidemic, but boy, we've seen it just kind of rear its ugly head over the past 30, 40 years. It wasn't this bad, maybe in the 50s and 40s.
At all. You're hearing more about it. You're seeing more about it because what we're seeing is we're coming into an aging population, right?
Yes.
We have all these folks that are living
Steve
longer.
is certainly aging. There's no doubt about that.
Well, people were always aging.
Yes, but we're living longer.
Yeah, you see, yeah, right.
See, so we're living longer now, so we're seeing a lot more of these types of diseases, but we're also talking about Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia now than we ever used to. And, it kind of was a thing that we thought, oh, well, you just get that when you're old.
Right,
or
right.
My grandparents had that, but we didn't talk about it. Mm-hmm. But now we want to talk about it because we want people to be educated enough to know that there's help available, that you can actually do some things now to reduce your risk of cognitive decline.
And I guess the point I was getting to is that in this modern age, and I think ever since, let's call it the 70s, with chemicals and products and the food that we eat, and it's bad news. And I think a lot of it aided in creating premature cognitive decline and some brain disorders, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of correlation between heart disease and diabetes with your brain health. So we're seeing more folks that have those types of chronic illness are increasing their risks for developing Alzheimer's or dementia.
Right.
So if we can avoid things like hypertension or diabetes through our diet and exercise, we can reduce that risk as well.
Really, all these refined sugars and refined carbs,
I mean,
it's just terrible.
So are we eating that differently? Like sugar's a bad thing, right? For in that space?
Sugar all the way. Yeah.
And
everything in moderation, but
right.
we shouldn't make that a majority of our diet.
But the sugar, and we're trying to do at home, we're trying to do somewhat of an anti-inflammatory diet.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
right.
is that in the same space you're talking about?
Yeah, you want to eat whole foods.
Right.
You want to make sure you're eating things that aren't processed, that aren't in a package, things that are coming from a farm or the earth.
Right.
The earth, I like that.
Yeah, and that's the difference. Like my grandparents, they would eat right out of the garden, and it was their garden, meaning that they wouldn't put the pesticides all over it, so you don't have what's that do you know the name of that one pesticide that's all over the strawberries and everything?
I don't know
that pesticide.
Not good.
Yeah, well, whatever that pesticide's called, but there's a lot of it all over the even plants and vegetables.
Right, but people don't want to buy a carrot that doesn't look great. Right. So they polish or the apples, and things aren't necessarily what they appear.
And with all the crossbreeding, they're trying to breed them for more sugar, believe it or not.
Right.
Because our palates want that.
Right. Yeah.
Is there hope on the way? Is this thing going to be cured, healed, corrected, redirected?
Seems like a lot of great things have come
Tell us
out
what's
recently.
going on.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope that we always say that someday I hope I don't have a job, because that means we found a cure.
Yeah.
Research has really made a headway this year, and that we now have these treatments available for people with Alzheimer's or dementia, because if you catch it early, that's why we're trying to get out there and let people know, talk to your doctor, because if you do get diagnosed in the early stages, we now have treatments in the form of medications available for those folks.
Yeah.
Now, it's not a cure, But what it's doing is it's delaying the progression of the disease. So it allows us more time to kind of figure this out, allow more time with your family, allow more time to get, your affairs in order.
But Alzheimer's is like calling a Kleenex a tissue, right? There's lots of dementias that aren't Alzheimer's, right?
So dementia is what we like to say is the umbrella term. And then underneath that umbrella are the other forms of dementia. Alzheimer's, you hear a lot about because it's the most prevalent form of dementia. So you have like Lewy body dementia, frontal temporal dementia. So Alzheimer's you hear frequently because it's the most common.
What is it that the actor has?
Bruce Willis?
Bruce Willis.
He has frontal temporal dementia.
And with all his money, he can't get out of it, huh? There's just nothing that he can take. That
we're not
prolong.
kind of like where cancer is right now with research. We haven't been around as long, so we haven't been able to kind of be at that place where American Heart Association or American Cancer Society is. We're about 20 years or so behind where they are with their advancements, their research, but we've really made some great strides in the last few years with that.
What does sleep have to do with dementia?
Sleep has a lot to do with way more than just dementia. But you think about your brain and what it needs to do while you're resting, right? It needs to kind of repair, rebuild itself, calm down. But it also plays a lot with your nervous system, right? So as you're sleeping, all of that kind of resets, reboots, and allows yourself to kind of wake up the next day able to kind of perform at a high functioning level.
Does it count if someone has to take something to help them sleep? Does that still count as sleep, or is it like if you had to do that, it doesn't work?
No, that definitely still counts because you're able to rest. If you weren't taking whatever that was to help you fall asleep, you probably wouldn't be getting good quality sleep. Maybe you would be up, a couple times throughout the night. So that intermittent sleep is not going to be that quality, 7 to 8 hours.
So can you help me? Because sometimes at night I have a dream, Tom, that I'm fighting, and I'll reach over and I'll smack my wife accidentally. So is there any help for that?
That's a different kind of show.
Sometimes you have the dream, you're like the dog. The dog's running. It's the same kind of thing. Yeah, sure. So if somebody has a family member with Alzheimer's, how can you support them?
Yeah, great question. We have a local chapter here in Central New York, right over in East Syracuse, where we can provide support for the caregiver, person living with the disease, and all of the family members. We can do one-on-one support to help connect you to resources.
Can someone just call and say, hey, help, and then you can direct them? Is that fair?
It's so funny because that's generally how they start with us, is they just don't know where they need help. So that is our job, is to kind of give them the pathways to where the help is going to
So alz.org, lots of stuff there. You can find it all there. Thanks for joining us, Jessica.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys.